hit the booze.
Hi, I'm Max Malins, and you're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate.
He's going to score Bristol's third try.
What a
What
try.
great play by Augustine Pichot.
And Bristol have made a bit of history, winning the European Challenge Cup for the first time ever.
You're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate, a Bristol Bears podcast made by fans for fans. We're 2.5 season card holders at Ashton Gate who love the club, the game and all things Bears. Well, Bath Rugby's expectations of a first solid win against the Bears for several years were about as high as the water table at the Rec before Friday's derby, and this belief kept on rising as they went into the break 17-7. However, the Bears roared back in the second half, and as the home side confidence drained away, it looked like the form book was going to be thrown out the window and back up the A4. Sadly, it wasn't to be, and for once it really was about fine margins. We hear the thoughts of some of our listeners and give our view on the game. Was it a cheeky point gained or 3 lost? But one thing was for sure, it was a proper humdinger of a derby. That said, it doesn't get any easier in this truncated season, as the next stop on the Bristol roller coaster is Saracens at the Stonex. We hear from their Fezcast fans podcast and discuss what we will need to do to get something out of that one. Given that we have now lost 4 on the bounce, is this another must-win game, or should we accept the inevitable and keep our powder dry for Gloucester at the Gate, which may well become a must-win game? We also review Bristol Bears Women's comprehensive victory at home against Sale Sharks women in the opening game of their premiership, and news on the vast number of babies that were passed down from the stands after the match. It really was a family affair, and both Miles and me were there with our nippers to witness the event. So, welcome to the 150th episode of Bears Beyond the Gate, live from the Bristol Beer Factory tap room for a pint of craft ale and a bit of rugby banter. Well, boys, we are here again. It's been a bit of a funny night. We're actually starting this pod 52 minutes late.
It feels like nearly midnight.
Yeah, we normally try to get it done at 7 o'clock. But Lee, do you want to explain to everyone what's been happening?
Well, it's been quite surreal, and it's been 52 minutes, but for me it's probably been an hour and 52 minutes because I actually arrived early today. Yeah. I sat down on a nice pint of milk stout. There is a screening today in the tap room of Planet
Earth 3.
Which we got entangled with, didn't we?
I think it's a private screening with loads of BBC executives.
Yes.
And because they said to us that we could get in and maybe use the office upstairs to do the podcast, because they were initially going to show the screening in the studio bar, but actually what happened was the sound went, so they started showing it in the main bar. Yeah. It's too loud for the office, so we've had to come back to the studio bar. But for a while we spent about 20 minutes watching this episode of Planet Earth 3 with what we might describe as creative media types.
Absolutely. Yeah. And worst of all, there's no Christmas tree up.
No. I mean, yeah, it's almost... Is it not quite the last weekend in November, though? So maybe give them one more week grace, because you're getting a bit tetchy, aren't you? No Christmas trees?
I am. The fingers are starting to go all green.
Oh, yeah.
And, but I'm not saying if it's up or down yet.
Oh.
The Christmas tree.
Yeah, of course. And Miles, I can see that actually tonight we've all chosen a nice pint of milk stout, haven't we, to drink?
Me,
except you.
I've just gone for a really nice... I mean, we talked about this last week. We talked about, didn't we? I've gone for a really nice IPA, I think called Badlands IPA. Just had a couple, and it's just slipped down the old throat a bit too quick. So, really nice beer from the Bristol Beer Factory, and thanks again for hosting us.
I've got to say, Miles, what I liked about that was that we did talk about it, and you've actually executed that plan by getting the thing you said you were going to talk about. I mean, there's a lot of people could learn from your planning and execution there, Miles. It's very good. Well, look, boys, we got to get into it, otherwise it's going to be about midnight before we finish. So as we've started doing the last few weeks, and I think that it's been quite a successful addition to our pod. We're going to read out, I think, 5 posts. I put a post out this morning, and I realised after last week when I had one post that had about 8 pages on it, right. I thought we should try and get people to just do one sort of one post.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've changed it and called them short summaries or something like that.
I also think it's a good shout doing it like a day, if we can, a day after the event, because the raw emotion tends to, set balance out.
And I think that it's a good thing, because we do then get a range of opinions, and it also helps us, reminds us what happened in the game, so we can talk about it afterwards. So as has been the way, I've tried to choose some new people, and in fact I think everybody I'm going to read out is pretty much someone who's new. If people are interested, I think I had about 20 replies, so if you are interested on what other people said, then feel free to go and look at our X account and read the replies to the post. But anyway, here we go. So let's start with new poster, Peter Birmingham at Second City 72. He says, was expecting us to get thumped, and in the end shaking my head as to how we lost. In my opinion, other than Saracens, there is not a lot between most of the other teams. Quite a lot of tight games, and goal kicking is vital. So very sensible.
Shouldn't you have done that in a Brummie accent? Second City, Peter Birmingham.
Pete, I mean, he clearly is from Birmingham, and he's called Peter Birmingham as well. I mean, that's incredible. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah.
Next one is Billy the Fish. Not had Billy the Fish before. Ooh. At Billy the Fish 22. He says, playing like millionaires half the time. It's as though no one had ever heard of Moneyball and its application to rugby tactics. If you play like that, you'll win 3 out of 10 a season against talented opposition and be fighting against the drop more often than not. Tighten up a bit, please. Well, yes, interesting viewpoint, bringing a bit of sports kind of philosophy into
we can
his
discuss
thoughts.
all this.
Yeah, I think so. Next one, it is from Alistair Stephen, someone that we haven't really heard of. Heard from recently, and always. So it's nice to hear from Alistair.
Yeah.
The main thing for me is that the last penalty that Sheedy dropped short should have been a kick to the corner. Line out was strong, and Genge and Sinks were earning their money. Could have won the game, but that's how these things go. Almost there, but will Briz run out of time? Good point, Alistair.
Great point.
We also have Brisley at Brisley. He said, versus Bath, poor decisions and not clinical in key situations cost a potential win. Short and sharp, to the point. Yeah. He took to heart my short summary. Well done for reading. That's good. Who have we got now? We've got Ian Parker. Sorry, at IAENP10. Frustrating was the key word for me, being missed, as in missed opportunities, missed tackles and missed overlaps and missed kicks. The fact we are creating opportunities is a positive. On another night, we could have dominated them. Got to start winning these games sooner or later. Very wise. Next one, Tony Conibert, which is at Tony Conibert. Felt like we came out the blocks really well in the first 10 minutes, then seemed to settle into the pace Bath wanted with the odd glimmers of hope. Clearly regrouped well in the changing room and played a much, much better second half. I mean, that is pretty impressive, because the changing room at the Rec is horrendous, isn't it?
Well, it's like a school toilet, isn't it? From what
exactly.
From
so maybe
it's worse than Webbywood School.
Yeah, it's worse. It is. It's like
and I'm talking old Webbywood School.
Yeah, and you've been there, obviously. I mean, I do wonder. We maybe discussed this, but maybe that's why we played so well in the second half, because we were so desperate to get out of that changing room as quickly as possible and do something else.
Well, the lads might have urinated over the floor to get the blood boiling.
I mean, I think fair play to Toby. So good one. Right, a couple more. John Phipps, another long time interactor with us. Apprehensive pre-game and gutted we didn't win afterwards. Missed tackles and butchering overlaps cost us dearly, as did the missed kicks at goal. I thought our set piece was excellent in the second half. Vakatawa's best game so far. So close to a morale-boosting win. Come on, Briz. And then one more. I think we've got one last one. It's kind of, we've always said we are contemporaneous and we will try and share, read out people's opinions, and then we may discuss it. So this is from, it's one of those, his Twitter name is just a load of symbols, so I don't know who it is.
That's just, well, go on then, what's he going to say?
But it says, I think he's anonymous, which is quite handy. Okay. And he's called at XUB Jeff. So he's got a bit of a handle. And he said, well, first half, Bath were playing like a hot knife through butter. Bristol looked like amateurs. Second half, looking a lot tighter. Still think we need a new director of rugby, someone fresh with different vision than the same one since 2018. So, controversial. opinion there at the end. But anyway, this is what. So, boys, a lot of interesting viewpoints there. Now, just to set the context, you boys watched it on TNT Sports on Friday night.
We did, yeah.
And I actually was at the game, which is a kind of I was actually there, and we may discuss how I was there and the reason I was there at the end of this little segment. But it was quite interesting because we've had a discussion about this before we recorded. That I think potentially there's slightly different impressions of what it was like, and being there right in the heat of battle, as it were, on the edge. Well, obviously on the edge of the heat of battle, was quite an interesting perspective than TV. But anyway, let's see how we go. So, yeah, I mean, I'll start with you, Lee. I mean, what's your? We've heard opinions of our followers. I mean, what's your sort of, what's your general feel, of your short summary of the game, as it were?
Short summary. Okay, so before the kickoff. Apprehensive.
Yeah.
I really did fear we were going to be in for a bit of a marmalising, as you like to the phrase you like to use, Pete.
Marmalisation.
Yes. Yeah. But I have to admit, I mean, we started really well. Bradbury, brilliant try, nice and early, and I all of a sudden I thought, do you know what? I think we could do this, and I just had that belief it come straight back, only to. For it to be completely wiped out, and kind of my original thought was, after 17 minutes we're 17-7 down. But having said that, I actually was more positive at the end of that game than I've been certainly after the Sale game. I don't think we're a million miles away. I do understand the criticism. I don't necessarily understand the criticism of certain individuals in the team, but I was quite positive at the end of the game, and I thought there was a lot going for us.
I think that's a fair summary. I think I just need to pull you up on one thing.
Yep.
That you've now introduced the not a million miles away issue, which we had. Was it 2 seasons ago? I can't remember, because we've been not a million miles away, it seems, for quite a while, and now I'm wondering whether is it really we are a million miles away rather than not a million miles away. But it's interesting. So yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, Miles, your initial short summary, as it were.
Well, absolutely. I mean, are we a million miles away from being not relegated, or a million miles away from being top 4? That's a good question. I concur with Lee. I was thinking we were going to get a bigger drubbing from Bath. I think a lot of fans did, didn't they? You look at their results. They've signed some brilliant players. I mean, they've got Finn Russell at number 10. Ollie Lawrence is just smashing through the park, isn't he? And as we showed, didn't we? You're right. I thought the first 7 minutes we were looking on fire. Bradbury fired over, and it was like sort of, cutting that Bollinger through with a fine pint of Thatcher's, wasn't it, to silence those...
Well, to be honest, it was probably a pint of Tennent's Extra. It was Marcus Bradbury, wasn't it?
Yeah. Quite absolutely, yeah.
Iron Brew.
Yeah, and those Bath fans probably shook off their wax jackets and thought, flip, Bristol have come to play. But lo and behold, the penalty meant that there was sort of 3 Bath, 7 Bristol, another try by Ollie Lawrence. He really sort of piled through our lines like butter, and I think one comment was really
like a hot knife through butter. If he's piling through the lines like butter, he would have kind of spread on. I know what you mean, Mark.
Sorry, I just say, is this the short summary, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, so subsequently, I think it was a 68% tackle completion, and that was our downfall, wasn't it? Ollie Lawrence just smashing through our line. But you're right, I think going into half-time, 17-7 down, I mean, we were, you probably agree, you were like their life, Pete. It was not looking rosy at that point, and I thought we were going to get absolutely, hammered in the second half.
I mean, my impression from being there was, that first 5-10 minutes, I mean, it was all at the opposite end where I was sat, because I was sat under... I was in the only dry part of the ground. I was like in the Atio, the Bath version of the Atio, which is that tiny. I don't know if anyone's ever been there, but it's like a tiny bit under all the hospitality where you could only kind of see half the sort of pitch, because it. Anyway,
it's
the first half.
Kenilworth Road. It was a football fan.
But yeah, I mean, it was all at the other end, and it was exciting, even though I couldn't see half of it. But I could actually see the whole kind of spread of the pitch. And yeah, when we scored that try, I mean, we were going backwards and forwards as multi-phase, and I scored the try. And of course, I was cock a hoop. But of course, in the back of my mind, there was that little niggle that's what happened against Sale, and then we didn't score again for ages. And kind of lo and behold, I mean, my comment on it was actually Bath then got into the game a little bit, and my initial impression in that first half was that they were a lot more cohesive in their back line. They were running a few lines, there was a few decoy runners, they just looked a bit better drilled, and we then started to kind of snatch it. And then of course, it was a kind of mad few minutes where Ollie Lawrence basically made 3 kind of massive line breaks. One of them he scored a try, one of them he kind of broke through a few, and then one of them he broke out off the restart. And I was thinking about this over the weekend because a lot of people, and me included, is like, that's just, that's a lot of people slipping off tackles there that shouldn't be. But he is a quality player, and he's going to do that to quite a lot of teams. And I think, whilst on one hand we should be disappointed that we didn't stop him, and I think he clearly should have been targeted as somebody to look after. And there is an argument to say, is that something to do with our, we've got a number 2 playing 7 and our defensive set wasn't quite right? Or was it just the fact that he just had a magic few moments and he's got that in his locker? And that was my feel. But I must say, boys, that when they scored the Ben Spencer breakaway, I and the Bath fans around me were throwing their kind of those little kind of deer stalker hats into the air and stuff like that. I feared. I think we were on a WhatsApp, weren't we? And I think the word cricket score was mentioned. And I've got to say, at the time, I thought this could be a horrendous night.
Well, it must have been bad because even Tony, he interjected a little bit on a WhatsApp group as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But I do think it was a little bit of Ollie Lawrence. He did play a blinder.
He was
absolutely star quality, star player on the pitch. But it was a little bit weak as well, I think, from our defence.
Oh, we were soft. It was I put this down to maybe, we were playing a combination in terms of, your back row are all part of the defence.
Yeah, of course.
I looked back on it briefly on the highlights, and that Ollie Lawrence try, there were people that looked a little bit like they were at 6s and 7s and didn't quite know it. There was a lot of gaps there, and I just wonder if that is the risk was taken. And we need a bit more time on the training ground for that as well.
Well, we brought players into the front line, sort of O'Connor, didn't we? Hadn't started before Friday night.
Potentially out of position if you call him a winger.
You're absolutely right.
There's only one person we can blame for that, and that's Pat, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's only one person that puts those players in those positions, and that's Pat Lamb. And I don't want to criticise too much, but it's not working, is it? However close we've been, we've still been on the wrong side of the fine margins. For Sal wasn't even a fine margin, was it?
Right,
but I just think I don't get it, and I'd love someone to explain it to me why those players are playing in those positions.
I suppose the argument is like who could have played wing. We could have started with Max Malins rather than having on the bench, but he was obviously coming out with injury, and we could have had Lane on one wing and Gabs on the other. I don't know, maybe they're,
that already sounds much more logical for me.
Yeah. Was Heward listed as injured?
I think Heward...
I thought he was just unavailable. I'm not sure he was listed as
we don't know what that means as fans.
Actually, no, sorry, I'm sure. I don't think he was listed as unavailable. Okay. Therefore, he just wasn't selected in the 23.
As a wing.
It just seems crazy to me that you just said that we could have Max Malins full-back, Richling wing, or vice versa.
But we need
players in the correct positions.
Yeah, and I don't think we should give Piers too much of a hard time. Clearly he butchered one opportunity. If he scored, though, he'd be a bit closer to the. He might argue that if he'd thrown the dummy and cut inside and got closer to the post for the conversion, everyone would be cock a hoop. It was just, it was terrible because I was right behind that, and I could see Lane. And I was in line, and I was shouting, just pass it. Like, anyway, it didn't happen. It happened, it'll happen in the future, but it didn't happen then.
We're not blaming Piers at all.
No, we're not. It's lots of players make little mistakes. Lots of players do great things in a game, and I think we should say right now, there were things that didn't happen, but it's not just down to one thing. It was a combination of things. And we could have won if we got the kick in at the end, but then Finn Russell missed a kick. We could have, there might have been a couple of times where they knocked on quite close to our 22 when they were. There were lots of little things. So the result is the result, and it was frustrating and it was agonising. But what was good? I mean, what was really positive about the whole thing was that at 17-7 down, the rain was really pouring down. I've got to say, boys, this is the thing about being there live. It was really difficult, and it wasn't just the slippy ball. It was just the underfoot surface. You could just see it was so hard. It was so hard. Bro, it was so hard for like all the players. And in fact, I think credit goes to both sides actually, and even the ref, because he didn't slip over once, and I've seen refs slip over. But boys, what do you think what was it then that got us back in it? What do you think, Lee? Because we had a good second half. What was it?
This is something I have not been Carl Sinclair's best supporter, have I? As anyone could say if you listen back through the podcast. But I did feel actually when Sinclair came on at half time, the front row was definitely much stronger, and he played really, really well. And I felt that was the catalyst for the change in the second half, because then we got on the ball more, and then we started using the ball more, and it's everything. It's like possession is everything, isn't it? You can't win a game without having the ball. No. So I did think Carl Sinclair was a massive contribution to that second half and how we performed. But I do feel also we, as a team, I thought we did probably have a little boot up the backside, and it just felt like they collectively came out for the second half like together as a team. Yeah, and it was a much, much better performance.
I mean, they definitely silenced the crowd. The Bath fans were getting very, very nervous. Yeah, in that, and when Finn Russell kind of skewed that kick, sort of skewed it left from in front of the post, you could feel there was a bit of nervousness around the ground. And I think I said this before. I think I might have said it last week, and I said it to some people. I said Finn Russell's got mistakes in him, and he was under pressure.
He was.
That second half, it wasn't all going his way, and his kicking was all right.
That was
it wasn't
a sitter that he missed.
It was, and it was a bit. I thought it was just a little bit of hubris, boys. I think Finn thought had stepped up, and a little bit of arrogance, and he just didn't get it right. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was, it's hard to say this, but I did enjoy seeing him play. He is a great player, and you can just see he's got that kind of vision. But he has got mistakes in him, and I mean, as we know, for the try in the second half, it was an intercept from one of his
to Ivatoye.
We moan a little bit about some Hollywood passes that go wrong, but that was pretty bad. And I mean, let's get on to that, Miles. I mean, that try, having butchered a really good try in the first half, that kind of made up for it. It was a fantastic try in that corner for Maylands.
But obviously before that, we suddenly hit a try. Was it 51 minutes where we did a sort of Sandy Park-esque Sheedy crossfield kick to Rich Lane in the open field? And I mean, that must have silenced Bath fans. A beautiful kick, greasy surface, a wet half you talked about, and Rich Lane touched that down brilliantly. And I thought, all right, it was 17-14 there, so we was obviously within a score back at Bath. I did not expect us then, 5 minutes later, to score another try. You're right, a great intercept from Gabriel Ivatoye, which was brilliantly done from a slight muck-up from Finn Russell, and then passed it in. Some great moves, little Thax, pass inside, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'll tell you what made
it. Lovely.
Actually, Max, I mean, this is where class is permanent. Yeah. Max Maylands threw quite a long inside pass to Thacker, which took out one of their players. And then Thax, that guy then turned to Thax, and then Thax flicked it back inside. The guy, I don't know if it was Redpath, whoever it was, but the interplay between Maylands and that made the try. And then I think it was Van Rensburg to Ivatoye shipped it to Maylands. And that was right in front of me.
It was a
that
lovely
was so
try,
good.
wasn't it? I mean, unfortunately, it was out on the sort of wings, wasn't it? And Sheedy, I don't think, made the kick.
He missed the conversion. It was a tough conversion.
But at that point, 17-19, finally we're up, and 69 minutes or 66 minutes of thinking, this game is on. I mean, what a turnaround from the second half. It was brilliant.
You can say something, Lee?
No, I'll come back to what I was going to say, because we'll probably touch on it in a bit anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if we just kind of wrap it up a little bit, the could have won thing. First penalty that Sheedy got, it was a good. It was I think we broke out. I think Randall broke out. We got a penalty, and I thought that's not a bad decision. Take the points. And I was right in line with it. I was kind of in the diagonal, and it didn't. I mean, I didn't really have my glasses on, but it didn't. It looked about right, but from where I was sitting, I think Callum he kind of screwed it left a little bit. It wasn't a great strike, and I thought, okay, well, that's not. Those things happen. I think it was the right decision at the time.
That one was.
Yeah, the second one, he actually hit it a lot better. I was right, and he actually, I think the irony of it all is I think he learnt from the first one, and he stroked it so much better. And I was watching it, and it was bending in, and it was online, and I just didn't have the legs, and it was so. I mean, the Bath fans were papping themselves. I tell you, the Bath fans in us, when it was coming, they thought it was gone through, and they were absolutely papping themselves. So yeah, it is fine margins. But
I am going to say, I think Sheedy's got a lot of criticism, hasn't he? And not just this week, but in previous weeks, and we've been, equally as guilty at times, haven't we? And I just feel that I'm not quite sure we had players on the pitch for me, and Sheedy's kick was good. The second one was good. It was just dropped short. I just wonder. I just put it out there if we had players on the pitch that maybe could have kicked with that distance that could have got the 3 points.
Well, we didn't have Williams on the pitch.
Williams wasn't on the pitch.
And it was a 51-metre kick, according to TNT Sports. And we know from Sale last week, similar distance fell short. So who was the decision maker on the pitch to say, well, give it a go? Our set piece was working particularly well at that point.
So why didn't we kick to the corner?
I mean, there's two ways. I mean, I almost think we're talking what they call in history counterfactuals here, where you're talking what ifs, and they always say never do it because it didn't happen. But you're right. I mean, there is that argument. They go to the corner, even if you don't score, you might score it. You might get a closer penalty.
It was a blustery night,
but it was risky. It was. I tell you, boys, it was so wet. Maybe they just felt there was. We moaned about the fact that they went to the corner against Sale, and then because it was wet, they knocked on. Yeah. Or was that Sale? Was that Harlequins? It was the Harlequins game when we went to the corner and then we knocked on, and maybe that was part of the decision making. The conditions were even worse. So
I just feel we're probably a little bit lacking in confidence, aren't we? After 4 defeats, but.
It was just. I didn't feel like really disillusioned after that game. I actually felt quite buoyed after it. I mean, I genuinely think that was a game we lost rather than Bath won, and there was a lot to be very, very pleased about in that second half.
I'd agree with that, and I think it probably initially me and Miles are a little bit out of frustration, just like we lost again, but. There was, in hindsight now, looking back on it with reflection, there was a lot of positives. We played so much better, and especially in that second half. And, I just feel like that front row was brilliant. I thought Genji was slow start, but came right back into it in the second half. And there was a lot of positives to take in defeat. But, as you say, it's a truncated season, and we've already lost too many games.
We've lost 4 on the bounce, boys, and we've got Saracens away.
We've had 2 fine margins games now, haven't we? One down at Sandy Park, where we came away with nothing at all. Another one on Friday night that we, as we just said, it was a remarkable turnaround in the second half. The players played out of their skin. And I think as fans, we're just really frustrated that we probably could have come away with 3 extra points, and that's why we're critical. We're just critical that we could have done it, and it's sad for the players that we just.
I think we're just being honest. I don't think we're critical. I think we're just being honest. That we all want to win. But I do go back to one of the posts earlier on. The guy said that realistically, it's pretty apart from Saracens, which we might discuss in a minute. It's going to be quite tight amongst quite a lot of the teams, and that's not really helping But we've got to believe that we will get on the right side of those fine margins in future games.
And also, I mean, I have to admit, when I was asked it, before the start of the season, where I thought we'd finish, I said 8th. So, you know what I mean? It's I think it's just frustrating that we're not far away. But I do feel like some of the selections, those fine margins could have been flipped.
Yeah.
With let's have Thacker back at hooker. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, like
let's
for
have
me, it's
DT back at
let's
7.
have Danton's
Come
back
on.
at 7. We could have played. I know Batley played 6, didn't he?
Yeah.
We could have had James Dunn there.
Well, no, James Dunn was in. He pulled out last minute unwell.
Okay.
He was another unwell, which is a bit.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think because I think Heenan came in. Heenan came into the 23.
Yeah, he did.
Off Dunn, but didn't go into the team. So Batley went 6. We had Caulfield, who, by the way, I thought Caulfield had a great game, and I thought Ed Holmes for his 100th
we had Caulfield out of position as well. I forgot that.
And they went locks, and then Heenan came on in the second half, and Dan Thomas came on. It's difficult because we know the coaches will have reasons for it that we are not party to, but at the end of the day, we've tried this combo twice and we've lost twice. Mm-hmm. And you could argue that in that first half, we lost those 2 tries, or that try from Lawrence was the defensive set right? Was everybody clear about where they were supposed to be? And your back row is part of that as well as your centres. But anyway, mate, well, let's move on. We let's hope. I mean, the problem is with it, we've got a lot of confidence, but the next game, it's like potentially a confidence drainer. So I think that may be. Is there any final things you want to say about that game?
Well, I would say, I mean, we've probably, we've gone away to Sarries before thinking we're going to get absolutely mullered. And actually, we've done really well. And you remember, me
and TC went to Tottenham 2 years ago.
And the famous one with Joycey, just really unlucky right at the end of, we could have won that game. So, let's keep our heads up and let's go again.
Okay, well, you're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate. If you like what you hear, please follow us on Twitter at Bears Beyond Gate, or on Facebook, which is Bears Beyond the Gate, or our burgeoning Instagram account, which has now got up to 138 followers.
Whoa.
from zero, which is Bears Beyond the Gate. If you do like what you hear, please give us a rating and a review, particularly on Apple Podcasts, mainly because that's the majority of people listen on it, apparently, according to the stats we get.
Oh, yeah.
And also you can get in touch with us at bearsbeyondthegate@gmail.com. Well, boys,
138 followers on Instagram,
yeah,
you say?
That's not many,
Isn't that the Miles Clark royal family? Every individual.
There are a number of his extended family on the following. I mean, they have no idea what Instagram is, and they're being, but their followers are followers.
Yes.
And we went from 0 to 138.
And I think we're quite lucky that he's got a big family.
He has got a big family. And where's Miles gone?
He's just gone off for
Miles,
a quick
Miles has just gone for a wee. I mean, should we just carry on?
Yeah,
I think we should.
On.
Well, look,
I don't feel he'll be coming back with another round anyway.
No, I think he might have.
As per tradition.
I know. Well, we will keep you updated with the whereabouts of Miles in the next 5 minutes. I think he's had too many IPAs for his liking. Right, boys. Well, look, Lee, let's get on to the Saracens game. Now, I've been working hard to keep these PPPs going. I failed miserably with Sale, but I did manage to get in touch with Jez Denton, who runs the Saracens Fezcast podcast, and it's kind of, I think it's partly the Supporters Club podcast as well, but really nice guy. Spoken to him a few times. So I contacted him. It was actually the Thursday, so it was before we'd actually both played our game, so we had a bit more of a general chat. But we did talk about the game that's going to come, and let's hear what he's got to say. Okay, so I'm really pleased to be joined by Jez Denton from the Fezcast pod. We've spoken in the past. It's great to see you again, Jez. Appreciate you giving up the time. And how are you?
Yeah, all good. Thank you very much, Pete. And enjoying the season so far. Possibly better than you guys are.
Well, we've had a kind of reverse season so far because we started with 2 wins and everyone was cock a hoop, and then we've lost 3 in a row. And you started with 2 losses.
and now have won 3 in a row. So it's a kind of it's a symmetrical type thing in the wrong way for us. That was what was going to be my first question. Actually, was just to find out, what your thoughts were about that start to the season that you had.
Well, it's been weird, isn't it? I mean, we come into this season as champions again. We've got back our rightful trophy, as we all say, and and expectations are high. Yeah, we had a lot of players away, possibly more than any other club in the Premiership. And yeah, first game up, Exeter. We all stayed at the start of the season. We thought Exeter would be this year's whipping boys, and fair dues to Rob Baxter and his team down in Devon. They've really stepped up to the plate, and yeah, a bit of a humbling. But we're not the only team who've gone down to Exeter and been humbled. So actually, at the time, we're all, well, what the hell's happened there? But it's less of a surprise as time has gone on. Again, losing the Bath, well, I think there's going to be an awful lot of teams who are going to lose the Bath. They've shown a lot of progression, which, can't be nice for you guys who are your local rivals to see that. But, Finn Russell's come in, giving them a bit of pizzazz. But more than that, they've got a lot of good players who really bedded in under a good coach. So, yeah, those 2 losses, I mean, a loss at home to Bath is disappointing, probably more so than the Exeter Chiefs game. But then Gloucester away, and Gloucester have been, let's be honest about it, rubbish. And Falcons on the weekend. Yeah, I just think this season for us, whether we got our pre-season right or wrong, I don't know. But I think we went in a little bit undercooked, and now we're 4 or 5 weeks in the season. We're starting to hit our straps, as it were.
Maybe you could just tell us about 1 or 2 players that we may not know much about that you might see, have contributed so far this season, maybe some unsung heroes, and maybe 1 or 2 that might come through in the season.
Well, I think the important thing is the players that we've brought in that have hit the ground running. We know what the lads who've been around for a long time can do. Alex Good has been there, seen it, done it. These people, Nick Tompkins has come back in, fitted straight back in. Alex Lozowski led the club in the absence of the other the likes of Owen Farrell and Maratoji, whatever, done a fine job. But it's the lads who've come in who've really made a difference. And I think one player in particular, I think, has really shone brightly, and that's Tom Willis, playing at number 8. He's making yards like they're going out of fashion. The one thing he will say is, given the fact that Billy Vunipola went to the World Cup but really didn't impose himself on that England side, you got Ben Earl, who basically is an open side, who played most of the tournament at 8. There is a position there open for England, and Tom Willis has stuck his hand in the air in a big way for that. The other guy I think you want to have a look out for this year, particularly given the time of it he's had with his health, but also looking at England as well, given that Courtney Laws has retired, is Nick Ezekwe. I think Nick's going to have a big season this season as well.
Fair play. I mean, talking about ex-Saracens players now, I mean, obviously we did manage to persuade Max Malins to come back. What's your thoughts on that? What about him leaving? Was it just down to the fact he wanted to play fullback, or was there anything else?
I think there was some personal stuff going on, and I think also he's worked out that he's got a market value that perhaps Bristol could fit in. And you had with Charles Peartell moving on, you had a gap, shall we say? And yeah, I mean, I suppose he's looks at it. He obviously enjoyed his time down in Bristol, and he's got connections down there now, and it was the right thing for him to do. I think also that Saracens, and if you see the video at the end of the Premiership final when they talked to Max and Mark McCall, very much was, the door is always open, Max. There's that opportunity there. My concern with Max is, though, that he's gone away to the World Cup and he hasn't, another like Billy Vunipola, never imposed himself, played a game, I think it was, and then did nothing. I have to question where his headspace is, where his confidence is after a tournament where he didn't really get used.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point. Most Bears fans will be looking at the game away at the StoneX as a very, very tough day at the office. It's not a place that we, have done that well at in the past. But is there anything you can give us? Can you give us any glimmer of hope that we might get a cheeky bonus point or something like that?
Well, I think the important thing this year is to remember that this league, with 3 teams coming out of it, like we lost last year, the Irish Wasps, Worcester, it's a truncated season. So the opportunities to make mistakes and to have off days, the pressure is on. And that pressure, gives every team a puncher's chance. And I don't think that, Bristol have had some bad results, but you got some cracking players. And if you get it right, you will give plenty of teams plenty of problems. Like Exeter have given, even I only look at Newcastle at the moment and think Newcastle are the one team that really, you're almost saying that's a bank of 10 points over the season at the moment, which is a real shame because I have an affinity with Newcastle. But, you've got some great players there. Whether your coach is going to do the right things and pick the right team or the right positions or anything is a different matter. And I mean, that's a question that probably you guys would never have ever dreamt of making 4 years ago, but now perhaps are questioning. But yeah, if you come to Saracens, we just need an off day or, a red card or a couple of yellows and you're in there. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go in there all completely defeatist. But then again, if we put out our best team, I don't think there's any team in the country that can stick with us. So, yeah, if you get within a bonus point, and this is not me being arrogant or anything, it's just that we have got such a great team. And I think we've proven it that even when we can rest the likes of Owen Farrell and Maritoji, we've got players coming in who can keep us at that high level. So
actually, you're right. It's very wise words, and I think actually we just need to channel the energy that we showed at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium a couple of seasons ago, which I went to actually, and didn't think we had much of a chance. And if it wasn't for a Joe Joyce forward pass at the end, it would have been a big win for the boys. So yeah, no, you've given me some faith there. You've given me some faith. Thanks for that. Just the last one, Jez. We've obviously going to have a few fans travelling up to the Stonex. Got any tips for them? Where to go, what to do, what to expect when they get there?
Well, I think the one thing to bear in mind, Saracens are really putting in a lot of effort, not only on the pitch but off the pitch. They understand that to compete where we are, in Bristol you've got 2 football clubs. Well, you've got one football club and you've got Rovers. But you're a rugby city, and you people want to go and see rugby. In Saracens, we're competing against Arsenal, against Tottenham, against West Ham, against Harlequins, against Eden, whatever. They've got to put something on. So the Stonex, every time you go to the Stonex, you will see improvement and improvement. What they put on for you, the whole thing, the whole package from the moment you get there to the moment you leave is superb. It's a bit of an ache to get to sometimes. I'll admit that, where it is. But once you're there, they'll put on, and you will be made to feel hugely welcome. I mean, it's the one thing that Saracens are really, really good at is saying, look, come along, enjoy what's going on, be part of the entertainment, as it were. And I'm sure you guys will enjoy it and you'll be welcomed. And, have a couple of pints of Wolfpack Lager. I'll get that punt in for Alistair and Chris, or whatever. And there's plenty of brilliant street food there and everything like that. You'll have a fantastic day.
So, Jez, really appreciate you giving us the lowdown.
Indeed. Yeah, well, best of luck, but not too much good luck. That's what I say.
Okay, well, Jez, fairly confident. I mean, I think
as you would be.
I mean, I sort of pointed out that they started with 2 losses and then have got 3 wins, and we started with 2 wins and had 3 losses at the time that I spoke to them, and now we've got 4, and now they've got 4 wins. So it's kind of we appear to be following a kind of anti-symmetrical season to Saracens. They lost 2 and have won 4. We've won 2 and have lost 4.
I've got a funny feeling though, it might have been their internationals coming back that might have swung it in their favour.
Partly. I mean, I think they did win against Gloucester, didn't they, before the World Cup? But yeah, now their internationals are back, and it was kind of, I think it was interesting that he kind of pointed out Ezekwe as somebody to look out for, and somebody else that I can't remember now. And also, I did try and get some crumb of comfort from him, and he was, he said the reality is it's because of the shortened season. Every club and team is under pressure to get results, and them included, even at home, and that can lead to mistakes.
And that is the whole reason that Sarri's put every international available and fit into their team as soon as they possibly could. And because there's no margin for error. They lost the first couple of games. I know they got absolutely tanked at Chiefs, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Park.
Yeah.
And so they've acquitted themselves, haven't they? They've got these players back, and they were straight into the fold.
I mean, what was the kind of slightly depressing thing is that he reckoned that they were a bit undercooked for their first couple of games, and that's a fair comment. You remember the season, wasn't last season, which season was it when we felt we were quite undercooked? Because we didn't have any pre-season games and all that. And the difference is that Saracens have sorted themselves out within two
very
games.
Quickly.
Yeah, whereas, fair play to them for that.
I mean, the worrying thing is that really, they went, I wouldn't say so, in a way, a London derby last weekend, and they appear to just smashed a very good team, 38-10, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean,
Quins, and, so things aren't looking great.
I mean,
potentially
if you're a betting, I know you're not a betting. Well, you are a betting man, Miles, because you put all your money in the stock exchange, don't you? But I would say that if you had a spare million, I'd put it on Saracens to win the Prem, and you'll probably get you might be 2-1 on, but you're still going to get a decent return. So. So boys, I mean, there's not a lot we can say about the game. I mean, what we've got to try and do, I guess, is take forward as much of the positives from Bath. Mm-hmm. Look at, I'm sure that this week they'll be analysing the players and their performances, and the question is Pat going to sacrifice that game in order for us to get a guaranteed 5 points against Gloucester the week after, or is Pat going to say no, we're going to pick a team that's going to go and try and let's start with a cheeky point and take it from there. So Lee, what are your thoughts in terms of the team we might take to Saracens next Saturday?
I think there's no question that Pat's got to go strong. He has to. It's like we've already said, it's the shortened season. You've got to try and win every game, whether that game is winnable or not. We have to try and win it.
Yeah,
and I think there's no doubt in it. He'll put in the strongest squad we've got available. Yeah,
and we've got Max Malins back and fit and firing. I mean, he's clearly going to have to start at 15, and there's no point signing him otherwise. And he looked good, apart from one mistake. He looked good when he came on. Going back to his, I don't know. It works both ways when you go back to your former club. You either. I don't think he strikes me as the sort of bloke that's going to get phased too much about it. I think he'll enjoy the challenge, and he'll enjoy the banter, I'm sure. Yeah. I'd like to think. I mean, it kind of worked, didn't it? Our bomb squad worked this week when we kept a bit of firepower on the bench and brought them on. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think we should start, Miles, with our best front? I mean, do you think we should start with Genge, Thacker, and Sinks, which we would consider to be probably our best front row combo? Or what?
What are the other options? No, I think Sarries are going to start with their best 15, aren't they? They're at home. They've got a crowd to please. They're going to want 5 points. I'd be tempted to start again. I mean, bring Sinks on, and Genge to start. I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a tough gig. Let's face facts, but you're right.
It's going to be like you doing stand-up up north somewhere in some
absolutely in a Force 10 isn't it? In Newcastle,
some working man's club in Halifax or somewhere.
Mate. I'm not going to start.
I'd say Durham or something.
Durham, up north.
Proper north.
Yeah, an old colliery town.
You got to face it full on in the face. I'm not going to paddleboard on my knees or anything like that. I'm going to stand up, go for it the whole way. And you're right. You can't just send a weakened team to Saracens and expect a cricket score. It would just be embarrassing for Pat and the club.
Well,
it won't do anything for morale.
And it won't do anything for morale.
And I agree. And I think even if you send a strong team, I think you've got to start with what you're saying is start with your strongest team. Because if we don't and they get away from us in the first half, it's no good for anyone. It's no good for anyone.
I felt like on Friday, we brought on Max Lanes a little bit too late.
Max who?
Max Malins.
Oh, I thought you said Max Lane.
No, Max
I thought
Malins.
you've got a new hybrid.
You know,
I mean, hey, how good a player would that be? Max Lane.
Max Lane.
Like a hybrid. He'd be like silky
Two
with a
players in one.
massive boot on him as well.
But I mean, are we going to talk about the potential team sheet, or will we come?
Well, this is what I'm thinking. Well, let's go for it. Let's do it. We haven't done it for a few weeks.
Because we personally had some what we thought were disappointing performances at Bath, didn't we?
Yes.
And there's no mucking around at Saracens. It's a plastic 4G pitch, isn't it?
Are you going full Nick Howell out with the rotten wood?
Well, I'm afraid so.
Okay, let's get through this. So we've agreed. I think we all agree. We're going.
Let's start strong.
We're going Genge, Thacker back at 2.
Absolutely.
Genge, Thacker, Sinks. Front row, international, almost
go
front
for
row.
it. We don't know what the unwellness have done, do we?
Lee, locks. Starting locks. Let's assume that everyone's fit.
Back?
Well, I don't think that's going to happen, is it? I think we
happening.
have to assume that's not going to happen. So who are we going with?
So we've got our backs, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we'll have Caulfield.
Not Holmes?
No.
Okay.
No, I thought Caulfield was better.
Definitely bench for Holmesy.
Yeah, definitely bench. I just thought,
they could be interchangeable, but yeah.
Yeah, I just thought Caulfield actually was better on Friday night, and that's my second rep.
Right, Mars,
But who leaves us that in the back row?
That's what I'm going to ask you now.
Okay.
Right, go for it. We're doing it. We're doing these short, sharp. We're doing these short, sharp summaries here. We've done front three. We've done. Now we want the back. We want the back row, Miles. What are you going for?
Well, clearly, DT.
You're going. We start with DT.
Start with DT.
Open side.
The problem is that Bradbury appeared to go off injured.
Did look injured, didn't he?
So my worry is, and where are we with the head injury?
Well, I don't know. You're the medical
Fitz?
man. Isn't it a 10-day HIA protocol?
Yes.
So that should mean that if it's all gone well,
If it's all
Fitz
gone
will be ready.
well, we'll have Fitz at
So
number
Fitz
8.
could 8.
So, okay, not 6.
Well, the problem is we don't know where Bradbury is.
Well, I think if Bradbury's injured, who's our go-to man? Who's Pat's go-to man at 8? Or we've got Heenan.
We've got
So
Heenan
Big Jake.
We just talk about Luatura being back, isn't there?
If there's talk of Luatua, he's straight in. Of
course,
has to be straight in.
Absolutely.
So
Job
Luatua, he played 8 for Samoa in the World Cup, and maybe what's our ideal? Luatua at 8,
Fitz Harding at 6.
Fitz at 6.
Then we have. I was
Damn
going to
it.
say Thacker at 7.
Yeah, you've been brainwashed, mate. Brainwashed.
So we have Captain Superman at 6. Then we've got Fitzhardin at 7, and then
Dan Thomas. Start. Right, stop. Take a breath.
It is confusing.
Stop. Take a breath. Start again.
Right, Superman at 6.
Yeah.
Dan Thomas at 7. Fitzhardin at 8. And away we
That's
go.
all right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's good. Right, well, shall I take halfbacks?
Go on then. Yeah.
I thought Randall had a better game. I thought he had that one really good break.
Tempo was good.
Tempo was good. I think he's done enough to stay in.
Yeah.
Marmion didn't get on at all, did he? I think Randall did. Marmion was spent a lot of the second half warming up, and then this is the weird thing, boys. The boys that never got on the pitch then had to do a massive warm down for ages, and then all the guys that had played 80 minutes just seemed to walk like Genji was walking around just saying hello to everyone. These poor old Marmion, he basically, they did shuttles for about half an hour. I mean, there must be some physiological reason for that. Poor bloke. I gave him a little bit of it because I was watching it. It gave him a little bit of a smile. He gave me a little watery smile back, and I felt for him a little bit. It's like you go there, you're on the bench, you go out and you have to warm up in this mud bath behind, which it was a mud bath, the warm up area, and then you don't get on, and then you're forced to do like half an hour of shuttles, and it was like Jake, Jimmy Williams, Dan Thomas, him, and someone else. I'm not joking, they were shuttling for about half an hour, and then actually I should tell you this, boys, there's some Bath boys. Absolute tools, and it wasn't because they're buff. They were just tools. They would have been tools at any club.
Tools.
And they were starting to. The boys were like the physio, the fitness guy was there, and they were all on the line, all our boys, and he was giving them a 3-2-1, and then these tools started going whoa, hey, like that, as if they went off. Jimmy Williams went and had a word.
Oh, good
He
lads.
went and had a word, and those boys, he went over, and then the security and then the other guy pulled him off. They absolutely, I'm going to say it, I know it's a family show, they shat themselves. It was so funny. I wish I'd been filming it. And fair play. I mean, I know players have got to sort of disconnect themselves from that, and it wasn't a big issue, but fair play to to Jimmy for that. It was, it was unacceptable. These guys are just warming down. So what? You might have won. Yeah. It was hubris of the highest order. Right. Anyway, so we're on halfback. So I've said Rands again. You know what? I'm wondering whether Jimmy Williams gets a go at 10, just to sort of shake it up a little bit, just to give Sheedy a little bit of a week off. That's probably not going to happen. Okay, so we're going Randall Sheedy. No, that's what we're going. Okay, so we're going Randall Sheedy. We're bound to you now. Hang on, we're back to you, Miles. So in that case, we're talking centre partnership. Is it?
I'm going to change it.
Oh, he's got the easy.
I'm going to change it up this week.
Yeah.
I mean, I still maintain.
You've got to have good reasons for it.
Yeah, I still maintain.
Don't just make it up.
No, I'm not making it up. Veremi Vakatawa is not fit. Clearly.
We thought we had a reasonably good game.
What? I didn't.
All right, it's a games of opinions.
I felt like he was running on treacle. Okay, the pitch we can excuse. I felt like I'm going to say how it is. Okay. I felt like he was too slow and unfit.
Okay, Miles. All right, fair enough.
People can say
they probably will
say against me. No, I'm sorry, he's not yet fit. I'm going to go back to Williams and Van Rensburg as centres. Okay. Brilliant partnership for the first couple of games. And Vakatawa has got to earn my respects, I'm afraid, and get down the gym a bit more and run a bit quicker.
I've got to say, I know this is a podcast, but for those listeners out there, Miles has got a massive vein on his forehead that is pulsating at the moment. And boys, this is what we want to hear. This is like the second half at the Rec, Miles.
Yeah. It may not happen.
The second half of the podcast, you've come out of yourself here.
We're on a quick pitch. Yeah. Veremi is not fit enough.
You're a bit quiet in the first half, but the second half, look at him.
Right, that's it. I mean, it may not happen, but flipping Williams and Van Rensburg back at centre partnership.
All right, okay, and then it's to you then, Lee, back three.
I'm shocked, Miles.
Well, you get over your shock and give me a back three.
That was the toilet. Yeah. That was the toilet break.
Well, can I just add the fans that this is the downside. Well, not the downside. There's no downsides of recording a podcast in the chat room ever. But however, it's the first time I've needed a little intermission for a little.
He took the rugby paper with him. He was gone for half an hour. I had to edit it,
and it's my rugby paper as well.
Anyway, let's get back on it. Focus. We're losing focus, boys.
Okay,
back three.
Right, I'm going to disagree with Miles Vakatawa.
Fair enough.
I thought he was our best player on the pitch. And I think the more games he gets, the better he's going to be for us. I'm doing back three, right? So, well, for me, it's got to be Max Malin's got to be fullback. I think Rich Lane.
Got to have Laner.
It's good. Rich Lane's
got to have the Lane training.
Rich Lane's got to be in, and Ibitui.
Yeah. I was really pleased with Gabs. Thought he had a great game.
Better on an eyeball.
Yeah, I think he's he's growing to be a bit of a cult hero, and now I think he's believing in himself as a bit of a cult hero. But he knows that he's got to do the fundamentals to maintain his cult hero status. And it was a great break. He read Finn Russell like a book, didn't he?
Exactly.
On that, and then
he did
really good. Didn't panic. Good little pass, and then And then as he got the ball, he thought, "Oh, I've got international player outside. I'll just ship it onto him, score." Now that's what we want to see. That is proper. And this is what we talk about as a team game, and that was a great try. So I agree with you. And then I don't know. Let's not bother talking about the bench because who knows what's going to go on.
Well, we don't know.
I think we've done. So, boys, the last question is what do you think? What's the score going to be? I mean, can you see us getting anything out of it? Is it a cheeky point? Is the best we can?
No, I don't think so.
No, despite everything.
Yeah, despite everything.
Despite our passionate team selection there.
All I want to see is we go down with showing the same passion that we did at the Rec in the second half.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's all I want from the boys. If we get down fighting, showing spirit, character, determination, all those traits, I'll be happy.
Everyone's playing in the correct position, we'll be happy, won't we?
Okay, let's leave it at that then. I think we'll do. We're not going to go score. We've kind of forgotten about the score predictions, haven't we? Because it's a bit of a... Although I've got to say, before the game at the Rec, I did say to somebody, but Bristol, to win 21-19, and that was about the closest I've ever been on any score prediction. Right, let's move on because we've got to crack on, finish off. Miles, you and me went down the gate on Saturday afternoon, 12:30 kickoff, and come back to that. We went round the gate on Saturday afternoon. Saw Bristol Bears Women. Should just say to listeners, it's just started raining. It's typical, isn't it? We started 40 minutes late, and now we would have missed the rain if we started on time. But that's the way things go.
Such an exaggeration.
That's the way things go with live recording. Anyway, Miles, we went down the gate on Saturday. We were one of 2,800-ish supporters, which also included quite a lot of young people and babies. And we saw Bristol Bears Women start their account with a comprehensive 48-5 victory over Sale Women. It was a really nice occasion. It was a completely different atmosphere in some ways to obviously a normal men's home game, because obviously less people there, but there was a kind of real family atmosphere. I took my daughter, you took your son. I think you bribed him with a can of Prime, didn't you?
Well, all right.
What, we've gone straight in with it.
Straight in there,
Surely, as Miles as being the father figure, should have given that away.
Embarrassed me in front of
How much did it cost you anyway?
The Prime or the ticket?
The Prime. Is it still
£3?
Oh, £3.
It costs more than the ticket.
It's come down for £100.
My brother said you should just give him a beer. I said, well, that's even more expensive. That's not.
Oh yeah, you know what? My daughter asked for a Thatcher's. What? I know.
Watered down.
She's 14.
Hazel or gold?
She likes a gold. I said good girl. I said good girl. Good girl. Yeah. Anyway, let's, like we did before, I actually asked some of the listeners who went to the game to give their thoughts of the game. So I'm going to quickly read them out, and then we'll have a quick summary of what we thought, and we'll go for it. So here we go. First person is at Hanny28. She, I guess, I don't know actually, because it's I haven't screenshotted this very well. Strong start, but sterner tests are come. Yeah, we haven't met Marley Packer yet, have we?
Right.
Front five look awesome as a unit, and looking forward to bigger challenges. Backline working well in slightly greasy conditions. Holly showing her class that's at 10. Holly Aitchison, that is, and picking out the right options time after time. A great afternoon. We also had very good friend of the pod, Mr. Matt Crute. We haven't heard from him for a while. Crutey, who was there and was on TV, wasn't he? We'll come back to that.
Okay.
Anyway, let's see what Crutey said. He said, excellent performance and result to kick off the league. See, when I say this, I can think of it. I just hear his accent in the background. Anyway, I won't go for it. I won't try. I won't disrespect him by trying it. Excellent performance and result to kick off the league through plenty of ring rust on show. You know he's a long-time listener, don't you?
He is.
Plenty of ring rust on show. Our international pack showed all their class, and backs were looking more dangerous than usual, with Aitchison Reed Axis, love an Axis, pulling strings. But my standout was Burgess, a quality operator at 9. I got to agree with that.
Yeah, she was great.
At Claire Brophy, Claire. Convincing win. Personal highlights were tries from local talent Lucy Burgess, brackets, sniping steps, like it. Renika Bonner and Jess Sprague, seeing so many grads from C of E play. Oh, I should have worked that out. What's C of E?
Church of England.
No, yeah, it's,
I don't know.
it's going to be like it's college, isn't it? Oh God, sorry. Including Delaney Burns getting cap 50. Oh yes, and Abby Ward return playing 17 weeks after a C-section, so fair play. And I think, Brisley, who I read out earlier, he gave me both. He said Sharks quality throughout and strength in depth, balance of pace, power, and match situation awareness was superb. Very nice, very short summary. If I was going to critique it, I'd say he could have gone for the alliteration. He said pace, power, and match situation. Didn't quite work, but I know what he's saying.
Did he?
He didn't quite get the P. I can't think of one off the top of my head. So, Miles, agree with all that? Professionalism. Pace, power, and professionalism. Boom. The Bard of Bedminster speaks.
Absolutely. Perhaps go back to the original. I think it was it's the first women's game we've been to see, hasn't it? We thought, Saturday afternoon, I hate to say I needed to entertain my son to get him out of the house. It did cost me an embarrassing bottle of Prime and a pasty from Parsons. So, supporting local businesses. And he was entertained for half the game. But once we started pummeling Sale women's team and getting in the tries, he was cock-a-hoop, shouting and cheering. And bear in mind, there's a little baby in front of us. So a couple of times I had to say, keep it down a little bit. But we loved it. I mean, let's just say to fans, the only stands that were open was the sort of Dolman stands, and they was pretty packed, wasn't it? I got tickets the day before. 2,800 crown was really encouraging. really noisy. But you're right, we'll come on to meet much difficult opposition in the future, Bristol Bears women. But for the first game, I mean, I hate to say, can I just say a couple of things really? The occasion was great, the result was fantastic, and the ticket pricing was spot on.
Yeah.
And that got bums on seats. And I just want to well done Bristol Sport for promoting that. It was on TNT Sports for the first time.
Yeah.
Weather was a bit rubbish, so a few people could have stayed at home. But I thought, we'll go down and support the women. And we had a great occasion down there.
Yeah, it felt like a real family event. And I mean, the funny thing at the end was that they all came over, a lot of the players came over to where we were, Dolman. And then, like Amber Reed, for example, she jumped over the thing and she said, I was kind of stood there with
Scared?
Nick. No, well, yeah, obviously. I was stood there with my daughter, and then she's like, "Oh, is it okay if I could just squeeze past to get my family right there?" And then, so sort of grandma comes down with a baby and hands it over, and then there's a few more. I've never seen so many babies in the hands of players. And even at the beginning, Abby Ward came out with her, I think it's Hallie, isn't it? Came out with a little one. And then, they did whatever they did at the beginning, and then Dave Ward had to come and take the baby off her and then give it to someone else and then go to the kind of analyst box. I mean, it kind of set the tone. It was like, all right, love, you can't actually. It kind of set the tone for a really nice afternoon. But that aside, it was a quality bit of rugby, and I mean, the player. I think the things we read out, our forwards look. We had an international front row. We had Hannah Bottoman making a debut. Yeah. We had Lark Davis. We had Sarah Byrne. That is a quality. And then we had Abby Ward. And so that's an international. And then I've got to say, Holly Aitchison.
Oh, she's class, isn't she?
I don't want to. All I'm going to say, and this is a bit controversial, but the depth of her kicking out of hand off penalties into the corner for like line out was great, very good. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. Very, very good.
She's been a class operator for years now, hasn't she? And she really is like fundamental, I think, to what Bears women's team want to do this season. And I feel really confident this year that we're going to do something big. Yeah, no, I think it was really, really good start. So, I would encourage everybody to go. I think some of them at the gate, some at Shaftesbury Park. Yeah, correct. Go and support the women. It's something to follow, I think, and we're going to try and do as much of it as we can as well. And that's why I wrote the article for this week's Bristol Post, and I just felt like we want to big up the women's team this season, don't we? And we want to make a real effort to do that. So kind of dedicated this week's post column 50-50 pretty much between the men and the women. So
so pick up the post tomorrow, or wait until it comes out online if you can't afford it. Right, boys, we're almost done. It's been a rambling kind of one that started a bit tricky with a private viewing of Planet Earth 3, but we're almost there. Just two things I've got to finish off with. The Looseheads game. We mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. It's a charity for the Doddy Weir Foundation. It's at Shaftesbury Park next Friday, 7:30. Just Google it and get down there if you can. It's I think it's Dave Atwood's got one of the teams, and it's on our.
Brilliant game.
I reposted it on our Twitter account, on our X account. So have a look at that. And I said we'd mention it again. And then the other thing, boys, is because I went to Bath on Friday, I decided to. I'd been toying this up for a long time. I decided to go and purchase a new away shirt, and I had a bit of time on Friday afternoon, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to shoot down the shop. I only live around the corner, and I've got to say,
I shot down the shop.
I'm going to shoot down the shop. I shot the shop, but I've got to say, I know the shop gets a lot of criticism, but I walked in, there was a lot of shirts on the rack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I went for the large, then decided against it. Went for extra large, and it was a really nice fit over my hoodie. And
really
then
tight.
It was a bit tight on the hoodie, but I think it was good enough because I knew the weather forecast, so I thought I've got to wear it over the hoodie. So I went with it, and then I did wear it to the women's game as well, Miles,
Yeah,
didn't I?
I saw
Because I
it
thought
in the flesh.
at 70 quid, I've got to wear it as much as often as possible, even if it's a home game. And I wore that as a normal shirt, and it was about right. So I'm saying that if you're an average big lad like I am, extra large is probably the best thing. If you're a big unit, but I'm not really if you're a middle-aged man, go for the extra large.
I was quite
right?
surprised that Pete was splashing his cash, but we now know he got a free ticket to
Well,
Bath, didn't we?
the irony
so he spent, to be fair,
Yeah.
he spent his money in the
I know.
right place.
Well, the thing
Bristol
is,
shop.
I know,
Absolutely.
I did, and I also bought a O'Neill's bobble hat as well as a family present. So my daughter wore the bobble hat, but it's for everybody in the family. So if we go, so anyway, I wanted to mention that I do think it's fair to balance out sometimes the criticism, and I had a
great.
very and the lady at the shop was lovely. She was lovely, very friendly.
So how nice it looked on you.
Yeah,
and
she did.
everything.
She said, "Oh, it takes years off you. Like you look about 60." I was like, "Oh, for God."
She's actually so lovely.
Yeah.
She said that I could bring Stan, my dog,
Yeah.
into the store. So how good is that?
Well, it's nothing. Yeah, I mean the
I
people
mean, there's
who
no
work
food
there.
hanging around the place, which is good.
But anyway, I think that's it. So we're going to finish.
No, we're going to end on one.
Oh, we've got
thing.
one more.
Yeah, it's only just something I've just noticed as we're scrolling through Twitter. Completely Bears unrelated.
Yep.
But rugby related still.
Rugby
yeah.
related.
That's
It's
fine,
just a
that's
post
fine.
that Hugo Monier's put out there that he's received racist abuse today at Sandy Park. And we just want to say there's no place for that in any stadium, walk of life, full stop.
Yeah.
And that's really disappointing. So, you know.
Well, that might be a story that will
Well, we
unfold
might
during the
read
week.
about. That's core for the rugby family as a general, isn't it?
Yeah, because I mean, this is the thing, boys. I mean, you know, rugby is going through a tough time generally. We're trying to attract new people. We're trying to sort of show how good it is as a game and the kind of values. I mean, the one thing that rugby's always had with it, despite the fact it's quite violent, is that it does have these rugby values that separate it out from football and so forth. And you know, we want to be promoting the positives and not having to talk about the negatives. So that sounds pretty dodgy, but let's hope. Well, I'm sure we'll find out a bit more in the fullness of time. If Hugo's put something out like that, it's going to get picked up, isn't it, by the media? So,
and we should say it's not a slight on any Chiefs fans per se.
No,
it's just
it's
seems
never
like it's one individual.
It's never a
who's-
group of fans. I mean, it's never a club.
No.
It's individuals. We know that. You know, we know that, but we don't want those sort of individuals.
He's
at
a
rugby,
brilliant geezer, and we support him
we love
100%.
him.
Cool. Well, I think, boys, on that note, we really need to finish because it's about midnight now. So, anyway, thanks for listening. Have a good week, and up the Bears.